In this vodcast, we're going to be taking a look at the major issues, but I want to highlight the concept of maturation and how it's used in psychology. Please note it's used very differently than we use it in our everyday life. In our everyday life, if we call someone immature, we may be saying that they are childlike, irresponsible, etc. That's not how we're using it in developmental psychology. It has to do with growth processes rooted in biology that spur on development, which then lead to certain behaviors, whether they be things like walking or learning how to talk. The other important idea here is that experience is thought to play a minimal role. Now, this is debated by certain people. We're just giving you a straightforward definition without editorializing on it at this point. So again, think of it as a genetic blueprint. And as Meyer said, by 15 months, a year and a few months, almost all human babies are walking. So why is that? So the idea here is that nurture, through this process called maturation, there are changes both in the child's brain with the cerebellum, muscles are getting stronger, and the nervous system is actually getting more integrated. That leads to the behavior called walking. And most of us do it within the same time period, which leads us to believe that experience plays a minimal role because we can try to have our infant practice walking when they're 4 months old, but it has very, very small impact on little to none, on whether or not they will actually learn to walk. All of these other biological factors have to occur first for the child to walk. So experience doesn't seem to play a role. Okay, this also plays out in this concept of stages versus continuity. The researchers who look at or who emphasize the idea that development occurs in these discrete stages tend to stress biology over experience, and they tend to look at maturation as playing a role. So again, these stages happen because they're biologically predetermined. They're sequential, predictable, biologically programmed. So if you want a good example, and I had given you one in another vodcast, think of this. This picture here really is emblematic of stage theory, right? The stages are discrete and separate from each other, so 2 is different from 1. And within these different stages, the insect is actually capable of different functions and has different behaviors than it had in the previous stages. So we see a separation between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, right? As opposed to this would be continuity. Okay, so in terms of continuity, we're talking about change is gradual and a slower process, and the idea of experience is given more priority. Now, I want to make this clear. Researchers can look at the same function, like walking or talking, same behavior, and they can say, no, I see continuity, or they can stress the idea of continuity more than the idea of stages. Likewise, researchers who are more biologically focused may actually deprioritize the idea of continuity. So in some ways, it's the beholder who is looking for certain evidence. Now, to be fair, those researchers who are involved or who are more leaning towards continuity do have a harder time explaining why most humans, like for instance, walk and talk within the same time periods. Now, stability versus change. Very simple. Look at characteristics. Look about how stable they are over time or how much they change over time. So this is a very good summarizer of why these 3 major issues matter and how they're kind of interrelated in some ways, but the core concepts of this introductory module are right here for you.